Well, on episode number 295, good evening, WNBA and women's basketball fans, and welcome in to a rare weekend edition of the WNBA 365 Network, your 24/7, 365 comprehensive home for everything revolving around the WNBA and the rest of the women's basketball universe again. And again, like I said, back here, folks, on episode number 295, only 5 shows away from the 300 mark for the WNBA 365 Network. But good evening, folks, and welcome in, like I said, again, to a very rare edition of our program, again, for Sunday night, July the 10th, 2016. But, folks, instead of sharing scores, news, and having a full panel in here tonight, instead, we have brought back our one-on-one edition of the program here. This is WNBA One-on-One, a full house of aces coming away here from Studio 171 in San Diego. Good evening, folks, and for the next 90 minutes of our program, Cal McClurg will be joining you folks here, or is joining you folks here, I should say, from Studio 171 in San Diego. At this point, folks, this evening. Again, not here to talk about scores, not here to talk about player performances, not here to talk about any of that, but again, where we do come here, though, we, again, either most times it'll be me, myself and somebody on our broadcast team, or in my case, it's just me tonight, again, where we are able to come and really share some very good stories with you folks about our personal experiences, not what you see on the network, not what you see on the network, but what you will see or do see whenever we do go attend these WNBA games, either earlier on when we first did the show, earlier on late last year during our first full month of the network rebrand, again, where I was able to share my personal stories about my experience with Candace Wiggins, and then, of course, we had Crystal Thomas come on and share her experience about a very rough personal summer for her last year that was highlighted, of course, by a 43-point game by Christy Tolliver and a generous deed by KT done after a game last season. And we also had Eric Nemchok also come on to the one-on-one show earlier this year to share his great stories, too, from his experience going to Chicago Sky games and everything else included, folks. So we'll be here for at least the next 60 to 90 minutes tonight on the program. You can get involved, though, still on Facebook, Twitter, and in the live chat box. Go ahead and hit us up on Facebook at facebook.com/WNBA365, or hit us up on Twitter at WNBA365 or at Calimac3 with the hashtag WNBA One-on-One. Or if you are viewing us live tonight, folks, hit up the chat box, but again, do not include anything in regards to any action for tonight's game, because we're not going to be talking about anything in regards to the games tonight in the WNBA. I know that we had 5, but again, this is a rare weekend day of coverage. But again, we will not really be touching base, or not touching base, I should say, on anything in regards to the action in tonight's game or any news this evening. And again, folks, as you probably had gathered or had seen during when we first put the press release out for the entire month of July. Again, I know there's a lot of bumps in the road here, or a lot of free time for us coming up, not just this week, but also the following week after. From probably what you probably had seen or gathered, or like any clues, but again, it's pretty fitting that tonight's show again is called a full house of aces, only because I brought this program about today, or at least this time around, at least. To again be able to share very good some more very good stories, and as I put out on Twitter, folks, just a few minutes before we came on air again, is any time that I can come here and share stories, or we can bring Shorty or Crystal or any one of our panel members on to share their stories, it's always special, because this league, of course, has brought all of us on this network together, regardless of who we root for. But we come together here every night, minus the weekends. But again, we come here though, and we share our thoughts. You know, it's just people, as Eric said, it's just people sitting in their bedrooms or sitting in their basements talking women's basketball for an hour, or in my case, 90 minutes tonight. But again, we get to, again, really share our true love for this sport of women's basketball, and that's what we're going to do here tonight again, here for the next, again, 60 to 90 minutes. Good to have Todd Mintz in the chat box, and also Shorty Mamba 24, who both have chimed in to say that they are watching tonight's program. Thank you guys, as always, for dropping in and seeing, in at least checking the program out for the evening. Now, again, folks, I know that I was able to share some very good stories back in November, when I was able to share my personal ties and personal stories to former WNBA guard and soon-to-be rising volleyball star Candace Wiggins earlier on last year on the network. But at least tonight I get to more so kind of go back and share more good stories, and also want to say hi to our good buddy Eric Nimchok from today's Fast Break in Elmhurst, Illinois, also tuning in tonight. So again, thank you 3 guys for watching us, along with the 6 other people that are hanging out tonight, late night here on this Sunday. But of course, folks, getting a chance here tonight for me to really, I guess, kind of further say thanks, but further, again, share a very good 12, pretty much 8 to 12 years of really good stories involving LA Sparks forward and center Candace Parker. This, of course, into a pretty big event, that a monumental event for me, at least personally, on a very personal level last week. Well, let's dive into it, folks. I'm going to kind of take you back a little bit in time till about the time I started watching women's basketball, about 10, 12 years ago. Young kid in San Diego, growing up still. Following Diana Taurasi, of course, the first player I got to see play basketball, but seeing Diana Taurasi play at UConn her senior year in 2004, there was a time, though, folks, where the big guy here in studio was not actually watching women's basketball, or was not really keeping up with it, because, like I said, players that I had seen play in the college level or the college ranks, even some WNBA players in this that soon became WNBA players, all have moved on to bigger and better things with their careers. So it was sort of that a little minor break in the road, or bump in the road, a pothole, you can kind of say about that, up until I'd say about 2006, in the month of March, when, of course, NCAA March Madness was getting underway. And it kind of goes back, or it does go back at this point, to a instance of me kind of fading back to how it was before seeing Diana play again, of how I was also, in a very small way, kind of hesitant to watch the WNBA or watch women's sports in general, up until a night during college basketball season, when Tennessee was going to be playing Army in the Cleveland Regional of that year's tournament. They were playing the game in Norfolk, Virginia that night, and it was going to be shown on national TV on ESPN2 that night. So I had gone into my bedroom, because my brother was not home from baseball practice or from school yet, and had flipped over to ESPN2 to see all the coverage of the pregame, at least. But I knew, though, that I was actually tuning over to Fox Sports West, the next channel up on our former cable affiliate down here in San Diego, to channel 31 to watch a NHL hockey game that was going to be shown on FSN West. Up until I hung around, because they had begun, or had started, their analysis of the breakdown of the quote-unquote players to watch in this game. But for a good part of it, though, a lot of the analysts, though, had really talked a lot about how Candace Parker, the college-level Candace Parker, they had talked about the year she was having. It was this very, very historic, monstrous season that they were having, that she was having that year with Tennessee. So I thought to myself, okay, maybe I'll keep it here and then go to the hockey game later on. But nevertheless, though, that was the night, though, where CP had also become the first player to ever dunk in a tournament game. She did it twice that night in Tennessee, of course. Easily got by Army 102-54. But, seeing this, kind of in a way, though, how we've seen nowadays, I guess, with Brittany Griner bringing the dunk to the WNBA in her rookie year, of how it kind of sort of got casual viewers intrigued. That was me 12 years ago in some very small capacity. Again, was seeing, a female player, doing what the guys could do. And right then and there, it's like, okay, there's the next player I'm going to be watching play at the college level for as long as she will be there. That in her career course, plus the all-around game you saw her play, her performance. Like I said, like this, like clockwork, I'm back, right back into the sport, because it was a player who had brought a high level of energy to the game, but also brought excitement to the women's basketball game, the dunks, the flashy plays, that she would put on every night. While that season, though, when they were, though, sadly bounced by UNC that season, even after they had gone out in the playoff in the regional finals that year, I said to myself, I'm going to make it a point to not miss any more of these Tennessee games whenever ESPN does show these games on television, because there could be much more good stuff coming up. So we'll skip ahead a little bit in time, folks, here to April of 2008, 2 years later. Due to school, plus I was playing baseball, I had missed most of that tournament that year, up until I had been able to finally watch, or got able to watch, that season's national title game when it was Candace Parker in Tennessee versus Candace Wiggins in Stanford. So it's like, great, now I'm going to be stuck in the middle of who do I want to win this game between, my friend from San Diego and Stanford or this new player that, burst on the scene and got me back into the sport. They're both playing each other for the national championship. But, of course, behind Candace's big game, Tennessee beat Stanford 64-48 to win their second in the back-to-back national titles, of course, the eighth and final title under the legendary head coach Pat Summitt. And as we all know, of course, Parker being named tournament most outstanding player that night. And, things for Candace just got a little bit better, of course, at this point, with the draft being held the next night. And kind of foreshadowing again, but as we know, again, LA, of course, owning that top pick, and then Parker goes to Los Angeles. So there's both the title victory and the draft happening in a span of 24 hours. You go ahead now to the next day when I am heading to my English class at PB Middle School here in San Diego, that's Pacific Beach Middle School for those of you wondering. English was always the class I took after lunch, which was at about 11:30, 11:45 in the at this point, kind of, about midday, I'd say midday on, it was midday on, I want to say maybe a Wednesday night, or Wednesday, I want to say. But needless to say, though, my, of course, English has been, will be, and forever is my favorite #1 school subject for all of eternity until I'm in my grave. So that day, of course, normally we would get some type of warm-up assignment to, get us, ready for the, for the hour and 10-minute long class, either of all the reading or writing we're going to be doing. So the assignment that day was to write a mini little paragraph or a couple paragraphs about what you thought was the big news of the day for the previous night. Bingo! Why not write about seeing, a player that in my case, of course, anything for me I would write about still, and even then was all about sports. So I said, hey, bingo, why not just write about seeing Candace Parker, this player that you watched for the past couple years, winning a national championship, then she gets drafted the next day. Why not write about that for your story? So, like I said, it was only supposed to be maybe a 3-paragraph warm-up assignments, but knowing the brainiac over here, yeah, seeing Candace Parker get drafted #1 overall in the draft was worthy enough of being both the topic for my assignment, but also worth being a 3-page essay. Because I had really tied in a lot of the things. I tied in about, this one night where I stumbled upon a game in 2006. I wrote about 2007. I pretty much wrote, again, it was 3 pages worth of material about Parker's career, plus seeing her get drafted, plus, of course, the championships, and again, going to a team in LA, and I remember it best, though, because my table mate that was sitting next to me at this point in time was, he's like, man, you wrote 3 pages about seeing, some college kid getting drafted to the pros? I said, hey, I think she's a pretty special player, and she's going to be doing something very well in the future. So ended up getting a perfect score. I got extra credit, too, for writing those 3 pages, in case anyone's wondering. But, yeah, it was also worth the cramping of the hand that I also had, too, as well. So, again, folks, like I said, I'm kind of, skipping from year to year to year here because there's like a fractured history here because of, I may have a pretty good memory, but I don't remember a whole lot of things at this point. But we'll kind of go ahead now to when I was in high school in 2012, which, of course, was my last year of playing organized baseball and organized team sports, for that matter. So during the winter, of course, we would go through our vigorous winter schedule of training, of course, practice, conditioning, weights, yada, yada, yada. So we go through there, and of course, I was one of 4 seniors on this team for my high school's baseball team that year. And of course, as a senior, you get the first pick or first crack at selecting, your jersey number and your uniform combinations for the season. And much like my other good friend Candace Wiggins, who of course we were both number 11 when we had played, but 11 was not available though during my time at my high school. So in the end, with all the numbers that were there for the taking, bingo, you knew it pretty well, but I, of course, took jersey number 3, and that would be the number I would take with me from my first year of high school through the last year I played in high school, and for that matter, for my entire career during that time, and for my senior season to kind of go out on top, you can kind of say, pretty much, folks, in a nutshell, offensive team leader for baseball for my team, did not make an error in the field in 27 games. I even had to pitch a couple games, was also a member of the All-League team, and kind of deservingly won the team MVP award that season. Sadly, though, that season, though, very good, very funny, true story, though, here, is that it's highly remembered, though, for my dad, who was my coach at the time and coached me from the time I was 5 up until I finished high school. Taking it a little bit too far, and I do apologize to Candace Parker for this, but obviously with me wearing jersey number 3, and my initials sort of being on the same lines as Parker, of course my middle name is her last name's initial for her last name, so he ended up calling me CPM3. I don't know why, but a very fitting attempt to nickname me after Candace Parker. So, Dad, I know he's asleep, but Dad, thanks for embarrassing me for that 2012 season. But in the end, folks, it worked out very well, so I was able to get that done and was able to, be able to do that as well. So, again, like I said, folks, I'll be skipping ahead from time to time. But, again, going ahead now to 2 years ago, May 2014, at a now closed but local San Diego hometown buffet. This is about a week before I turned 20. And my folks and I had gone out to dinner that night. And, naturally, of course, and this happens to everybody out there, of course, your parents or your friends ask, what do you want to do for your birthday? So my dad said, oh, maybe we should go to the Steve Miller Band concert. They're playing at Sleep Train Amphitheater in Chula Vista. Yeah, but see, I'm not a guy, though, that likes to celebrate their birthday, like, days before or days afterwards. So I told them, no, the Sparks are playing the Phoenix Mercury on May 18th. I want to go see Candace Parker play on my actual birthday. Because, again, they had opened their 2014 season after all the off-season drama against Phoenix on May 18th that season. And I said, hey, look, this is my day, my one day out of the year that I'm, a very special VIP person, very important person. Hey, we're going to go to L.A. You're going to enjoy this game as much as I'm going to because, hey, it's also DT versus CP. It's the first player that got me into women's basketball and the player that kept me in the sport of women's basketball when she was still in college, about 8 years earlier. So, and they said, okay, we'll go to the game. And that was a very very awesome night, of course. Phoenix ended up winning that game 73-69 that evening. But, of course, it was more meaningful for me, though, of course, to, not nostalgia, but that's not the word for it, but, being able to, finally say, yes, or wow, I'm actually seeing Candace Parker play in person in front of my own eyes, not on the television screen like it was when I was younger at this time. But it was, though, memorable. It was still a memorable game for me, folks. Not only was it my first WNBA game in person, but more so at halftime of that same game. My dad and I were sitting about 5 rows up from the LA bench in Section 118 at Staples Center, and I was able to, she was finishing up an interview with Time Warner Cable Sportsnet, and I was able to reach over and snag a high five from her, and that was like that did enough for me in regards to that did enough for me, to like, okay, I didn't quite meet Candace Parker, I got a high five, but it's like, that was, that still, though, had a lot of weight, weight in regards to, a fan player experience or fan player experience, I should say, that night. But in the end, there was still a bigger goal, so I got the high five. Now it's like you kind of like want to up the ante, raise the bar every time. What do you want to do? So it went from being a high five tonight. Now I got to get an autograph. Now I got to get this done, get that done. So I ended up going back to one more game that season when they played the New York Liberty that night. It was also the night where Candace Parker did not play that evening. She had a bit of a banged-up knee that evening. So I had took a dad who was a local baseball umpire who I've known for a long time and his son. So I took 2 first-timers to their first game. that night, and they were, they were as bummed as I was when I had told them, hey, Candace isn't going to play. She hurt her knee in the All-Star game. So, I hate to break it to you, but she's not going to play tonight. But in the end, though, obviously another game that LA had lost. But I kind of got fortunate, though, being where I was sitting that night in regards to, again, being about 10 or 11, about 5 or 6 rows again away from the LA bench. And after the starters and the reserves that didn't play left the bench and went into the locker room, of course, Candace Parker went and saw her husband and her daughter on the far end of the playing court at Staples Center. So that gave me enough time to kind of sort through my backpack, as I bring a pretty hefty amount of stuff to get signed in case I meet anybody that I can get stuff signed from. So it's a pretty hefty FedEx envelope full of 8x10s, of Photoshop work I've done, and so on and so forth. So I had purchased an 8x10, which is on my wall now, but it was an 8x10 of a still shot from longtime Sparks photographer Eric Wade via eBay. That was her initial jump to her first slam dunk against the Indiana Fever from her rookie season. So as I scrambled to get it, she gets right, about maybe a section away from me, signs an autograph, and then I just held it out there for her real quick and just, said her name once. And it's by far the most memorable player reaction I've seen from an athlete that I've seen given to any fan in regards to, again, seeing their face light up, and it's like you know this person from somewhere. That was also due to, again, a pretty heavy conversation via Twitter, via Instagram. But it was a look that I have never seen from any athlete given to me whenever I've asked them for an autograph. Because I think we all know, though, that 9 times out of 10, sometimes whenever you get and ask for a interview, or not an interview, but ask for a photo, or ask for a photo or an autograph of a player, they're like, yeah, we'll sign, I'll sign this, and then they'll move on to the next person. But it was more of like, hey, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Thanks for coming. And it was a shoulder bump and stuff like that. And that's that's something obviously that we don't see a whole lot of players give athletes, is somewhat of mutual respect is the thing is probably the word I'd say about this type of interaction, is there's mutual respect between the fans of the WNBA and the players as well that play in these games. So it's like, great, cool. I got something autographed. Great, I can be a happy guy. Up until one of my very good Sparks friends said, hey, I got an autograph pass for you for the night. It's both Faria Abdi and, hey, CP is also signing as well. Again, I'm not a fast runner. I mean, you can ask my folks, ask former teammates of mine, folks, when I played. I am not a fast runner. But in probably the only time I really put the jets on to run somewhere, that was that night, to run from where I was to pretty much halfway around Staples Center to get in line for that. So that was by far awesome. So then it's then I faced the dilemma of okay, she signed this photo, now what's next? But luckily I had 2 Photoshop photos I had done of her. They were one was actually another photo from Eric Wade that I had photoshopped and had worked out for it to be the photo of her actually finishing her slam dunk, but it was pretty much a quad or 5 picture collage. That was the backdrop, which I believe, if I can see, but I can't because the lights are on here, but it had the Hollywood sign, Venice Beach, the Griffith Observatory, downtown LA, and something else on it. And then I had another one that was pretty much a computer wallpaper of mine for a bit that I actually had also photoshopped, and I put the entire downtown landscape of Candace Park of LA behind her. So going into the line, it's so there was some small conversation here, and it kind of eludes me, but I actually remember it well. It was more so, Candace, twice in one night, this is, phenomenal. I mean, because, sometimes you wouldn't really normally meet athletes 2 times or 3 times one night at either before the game or afterwards or whatnot. So there, again, we did have some small conversation while she was signing both these photos that I had put in front of her. And then by far the most classic question I've been asked was, LA had played the Mercury the next night that evening, and she'd asked, hey, man, you coming to the game tomorrow night as well? I was laughing because I said, Candace, I'd love to be here tomorrow night, but I'm going to be on vacation in a couple days, so I can't make it tomorrow night. So she got a good laugh. I would say, well, hey, come on back for the playoffs. So Sadly, I didn't hold up my end of the bargain on that one, but then it ended off very well though, folks. With of course it ended off well with take care and see you soon at this point in time. Starting by folks, the chat box real quick as I try to recatch my breath. I'll be taking a bit of a water break momentarily. Again, folks, we're not here tonight to be discussing anything about the league or about the scores from the game tonight. So if you're in the chat box, please limit the conversation about anything to the league or scores from the night. Again, we'll get to that tomorrow night or Tuesday. But again, it's more so geared towards just story time here for the next almost 65 minutes and change here. But again, just want to clarify that real quick. And again, thanks for everyone that's hanging out here tonight on the program here this evening. If you're watching us live on Facebook or on Twitter, again, you guys can hit us up again on our Facebook page, again, facebook.com/WNBA365, or on Twitter, it's at Calamac3 or at WNBA365 this evening here for this very special edition of WNBA One-on-One here this evening. So now, folks, again, so following that night, after meeting her twice one night, so again, it was a high five. The first game I went to, then it was the autographs afterwards. We would not be able to interact up until a very, very, not important, but a very, very career-defining moment for me personally in my very brief and young broadcasting career. It was a time and place, pretty much more a time period, I should say, where my entire career had changed for the good in this case. As you folks, again, are pretty well, probably not, but those of you that don't know, again, during that time, again, I had been chasing my college degree from a broadcasting school in Los Angeles. Of course, I had gone to school down here, but the actual campus is up in Los Angeles. It's an actual television and movie lot located on West Newberry Street up there off the 110. That's been, that is currently used and has been used, I should say, by the Disney Channel and many other many other networks for movies and TV. So it was actually a night where I was assigned a project of doing a one-on-one interview of somebody of some type. It could have been somebody. But I wanted to take it a step further because I had done fake interviews, I had done recorded interviews, I had done the whole shebang with interviews for fun, basically, pretty much with either my dad when he was coaching my baseball team when I was younger, with my friends, just to do it for shits and giggles. But it was a night though where I was actually talking to one of our great people from the network. I was actually chatting with Crystal Thomas one night. I was scoping out ideas, and that was kind of a time where I had told myself, but I also told Crystal, I'm going to interview Candace Parker. So I slept on it for a few nights. I thought about it. It weighed pretty heavy on me after I was told I had to do this project. Was like, Candace Parker. I think I'll do Candace Parker. And then the next night, okay, I'm going to interview Candace Parker. It's like, I'm tossing this around for so much and so often. Like, okay, I'll try this here. So, perhaps not the most professional way of doing this, sadly, but of course, not having much of a very good connection to Ace herself, but probably not also good timing, I'd say. I had decided to reach out to her a week after LA had lost to Phoenix in the postseason. And I was more so hoping it'd be maybe, I set the bar or my expectations at maybe 5-10 minutes at most, just to, ask her a few questions. At this point, it was also for a grade for a project. I had much more work ahead of me, but again, it was just for, this was like a little checkpoint I was kind of hitting. Like, we all play those racing games at the arcade at Dave & Buster's or whatnot. You get those checkpoints along the way when you have so much time to get from point A to point B. You hit a checkpoint to get extra time. That was me in this case. This project or interview I was slated to do again was a checkpoint or like a checkup grade, more so for how I was going along with my program. So after I had finally asked her again, and this was via Twitter direct messaging, yikes, not the best way to do it, folks. But after I had sent off the message, though, later on later that week. I wasn't honestly, true story, but I was not expecting any type of response at all because of the daily busy lives that all athletes go through. Plus, in her case, to being a mom, and a mom and a wife at the same time. But talk about capturing lightning in a bottle, eh? Yeah. 3 days later, folks, Candace Parker replied back to me. I mean, I wasn't really expecting any type of response back, like I said, but she ended up saying, "Hey, let me know when you need it by. Be more than willing to do it for you." But more so, she just said, "Let me know when you need it by." By far, the biggest shock and the biggest wave of emotion I rode was that message coming to me and saying, "Hey, man, okay, let me know when you need it by," because I would not have expected any professional athlete at all to take the time out of their day to chat with someone who is, again, not with a major media market. Again, this was this was a 20-year-old kid at the time, who was going through college, again, and reached out to a professional athlete who 9 times out of 10 doesn't or would not give out any type of interview to a college student or whatnot, but she was more than willing to do that. It's like, okay, great, awesome. But then I realized, though, how much or how important it is for all of us to have patience in our lives during this time. Of course, at this point, the timing, though, as well, was not the best as well, because Candace Parker at the time was slated to go with the women's national basketball team to the 2014 FIBA World Title Tournament in Istanbul, Turkey, that season, or that summer, I should say. And I thought to myself, great, I'm not going to get this interview, and now it's what's next. But though Candace said that she was going to sit back and stay back that season because she had a minor nagging knee injury that had pretty much she dealt with for the last half of the season, so she would elect not to go to the FIBA championships that year. So, folks, 3 full weeks went by without any type of response from her to me or from me to her about anything. But, though, like I said, patience is so essential for all of us daily that my patience level, grew and grew and grew with every passing day, because this was something I had told Crystal, I had told Tanisha, I had told anybody that would listen to me that was a big basketball fan that knew about this interview was, hey, Candace Parker said okay for this interview. She said yes or okayed it. So that means she put me on the radar somewhere. She said okay for it, but I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to be that person that's going to, ask her day in and day out, every passing hour, every minute, every second about this interview, because not only does that make me look bad, as a person, both as a fan of the league and also as a media member, but also that it just doesn't make us look good as fans, and also even as media pundits in my case, that you're gonna bother and pretty much bother and bicker because no one's getting back to you about something. So patience, of course, was very, very essential during this waiting period. But the patience did perceive, though, and win at the end of the day. By night's end of September 25th, I had just at this point I just was able to I lose my memory here, folks, but during the last part of September, sorry for kind of getting thrown away here, folks, but I just had asked her in a nice way to say, hey, I know that you got a lot going on, of course. Do you think that we'll be able to do this sometime soon? Again, there's no rush about this, but absolutely let me know when you have time. But so the next day, on the 25th, CP did get back and saying, hey, I'm game for this interview. Just send me your contact info, and we'll get this thing. We'll do it tomorrow morning. So, again, folks, I'm not the type of person that really gets nervous, that really gets overworked up, overhyped, or does get very, very nervous to the point where my hands will shake. But that was probably the first time I've been a nervous wreck, literally shaking, shaking down to the soles of my feet. So that night, I mean, I could not fall asleep, folks. I mean, I just really could not find a way to settle myself down that night, because I knew that this was going to be not only that this was going to be, a very special day for me as both a upcoming broadcaster and as a fan of the WNBA and women's basketball, but also special though because this was going to be my first ever professional athlete interview at this time. So the next morning we were slated for 8:30 in the morning. Poor count, I guess you can kind of say, but I don't consider myself poor. But again, I could not fall asleep till about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning that day because just, the adrenaline really had kicked in that night. It's like this is going to be a very fun day, very awesome day. So she said, 8:30 past, 9:30 kind of comes around. So I thought, okay, something's going on here and something's not right. And during that time, while I was kind of waiting for her to get a hold of me, I was, I made sure I was awake, so I went and had some coffee. I read over my notes that I had prepared and my questions that were ready. And at one point, I think about 9:45 or 10 o'clock, because my mom and I were babysitting at the time my newborn niece that week, and my mom's like, "Cal, did Candace forget to call you?" And I said, "Hey, she's busy right now with her daughter. Something came up with her daughter. Plus, she's probably in traffic, so we're going to be going on at 10:30." So then 10:30 did roll around, and my phone finally rang, and Candace called me, and we went forward with folks. And like I said, I had set my expectations for 5 or 10 minutes, but instead, though, Candace Parker, God bless her soul, 41 minutes. She was on the phone with this great interview, folks. Again, it was a very incredible, extraordinary 41-minute conversation. Not an interview, folks, but more of a conversation about her growing up. And again, this was in many news stories, folks, written by my school about this. Was again, I made this more of what we're doing here again. We have a one-on-one show here, but again, open form coverage here, or like a open form type of show. In this case, where again, I let her, I would, it was like a pass and score. I was the guy dishing her lobs for easy baskets in this case. And again, I let her kind of open up the doors again because, nowadays as we see, folks, pro athletes really aren't able to go back and revisit high school and revisit college and revisit all their glory days from when they were my age and doing well. But again, I allowed Candace Parker to talk about high school, talk about college, her early years in the pros, playing overseas, and then, I made it more of a personal tie, personal connection, personal conversation by mixing in some stuff about, hey, what's your pregame ritual? Where's your favorite city to play in when you're on the road? And then, I kind of, did it, I guess, jokingly, when I was trying to name all of her favorite sports teams and stuff like that at this point. But after it had wrapped up, folks, after we'd signed off and stuff, the interview, when it was posted, received almost 200 listens in a little over 6 hours that day. It had spread from friends of mine to my family, to some of you great writers out there, to Albert Lee and the folks at SwishAppeal.com had gotten a hold of the interview. Of course, Candace herself had also sent it out. Even her dad, folks. Even the GOAT, Larry Parker, of course, very good player at Iowa, had also found it via Twitter and had sent it out on his Twitter account about the interview. And, a day that still has not, even to this day, July 10th, 2016, still a day that has not left me at this point in time because of just how much it had or has and still does mean to me, of course, the first ever interview. With me. It ended up getting a perfect score, folks. It was featured in the following week's newsletter from my school. It was also on their, it was also under their SoundCloud. They had reposted it, or reshared it, I should say, that evening. They reshared it. It's been in many other stories that they've written about me as well. So then, my dad and I, and this is actually, folks, was not in any story I'd written about this, about what I'm going to get to here. And by the way, wanting to stop real quick here and say hi to Crystal Thomas, who sent me a smiley face emoji in the chat box here. And Todd Mintz also wanted to say real quick, he says, Cal and Sal does a report, buddy, but I'll have to go to bed sometime soon. However, though, this is a very good story. He says, I have attempted to be a friend or send some nice texts to many WNBA athletes. They most all stun me except for Johnson and Snow. The way I cheer and root for them, basketball or personal endeavors, as how you feel about CP at this point in time. And again, KT, good to see you. And I know that, again, you had a bit of a minor role. I know that you don't take a whole lot, but you had a very microscopic role, though, in helping me out with that interview with Candace Parker in 2014. So salute to you for helping me out 2 years ago in landing that in a very small way, assisting me in getting that interview with Ace last season. But staying with my school experience, folks, in this case, very good story here that I wanted to touch base on as well was I had actually gone with my dad to visit the campus, again, which my school, folks, again, is actually, it's called Recording, Radio, and Film Connection. They are based in Los Angeles. They've been around for a very good amount of time. They have a very, very good track record, again, of landing people like myself in broadcasting, in music, in film, and culinary, so on and so forth. We actually go to a actual film set, radio station, TV station, music studio, or an actual restaurant, and we actually learn on the job from the people that we are going to school with. So, for instance, folks, my show producer and my show producer at the station I was working at, Mountain Country, 107.9 FM out here in San Diego, was also my teacher. So we would go over curriculum and over the course textbook while I was also on air every Tuesday night, Monday morning, and Saturday morning as well. So we actually had gone to the station, or to the actual studio, I should say, in LA, and my dad wanted to kind of see where I kind of stood so far. And that on the way up, I said, "Hey, Dad, look, Alex and Jay and Leah know about these interviews, but hey, I'm going to play this interview for you on the way up." So I played the interview of Candace Parker on our drive to Los Angeles that day, and he was absolutely blown away. And again, my dad is not the biggest women's basketball aficionado, but his mind was like totally blown, like he was shell-shocked hearing this interview between his son and this, WNBA superstar, women's basketball superstar. That when I got to actually bring up the interview with Jay and then Alex, my counselor at my school, and then Jay was my the guy that helped me get some jobs along the way while I was still in school. My dad's like, hey guys, I heard this interview that Callan did with Candace Parker from the LA Sparks today on our way up, and my goodness, this was not an interview in any capacity. This was more like how we're talking here. That's kind of the way, though, folks. I don't want to, I guess be the, I'm not a superstar, folks. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed for a host of a television show or a radio show, or even, I'm not the best guy that hosts this program every night that we come here tonight on that come to you folks here on here on the network. But again, my format though was more of like how we're doing it here today. Again, it's not me interviewing somebody, but it's kind of that way where, again, I'm sharing stuff with you on a personal level. Again, we're not talking scores, talking news, talking scandals or stuff. Again, we're more so, again, just having a running conversation here. That was what I wanted, and made sure I made this interview with both Parker and Wiggins that way, again, where they could actually go back and again, and again, they can share these stories, because again, they don't really get to share their, share stuff from their high school days or college or the pros anymore, because they just don't, because they're so zoned in, and rightfully so. But again, but we're also so zoned in though on the current era or the current modern time period. Again, we're focusing in on 2016, but I wanted to let Candace Parker talk about 2004, talk about college, talk about the pros, talk about things that have happened in the past, and again, to see, kind of let them again reminisce about how far they really have come though as both a player and person in their own right here again. So that was that's just like a sidebar story. So we'll kind of now, again, folks, kind of move ahead a bit in time. So now we'll kind of go into last WNBA season, where, of course, as we know, again, Candace did not play the first half of the season to kind of, again, give herself a break from the year-round grind that, again, is women's pro basketball. And again, as many of you folks know, I know a lot of you viewers out there, a lot of our followers on Facebook, or followers on Twitter, I should say, and friends on Facebook know, again, the women's basketball world has and probably will for a while again face a major uphill climb, because of course we know they are not given those hunky-dory luxurious contracts as other pro athletes that they are given. Again, a quick want us to pull us out real quick for Kennedy Robinson is in the chat box wanting some social media information. Kennedy, you can follow all of us on follow myself in the network on Facebook and on Twitter. If you want to give the Facebook page a like, it's facebook.com/WNBA365, or follow us on Twitter if you have Twitter. It's at WNBA365, or my personal handle is at Calamac3. That's CALLANMAC with the number 3. If any folks out there want to follow my thoughts on the sports world on Twitter, you can go ahead and do so at this point in time. But again, that's how you can do it, guys. Again, folks, sorry, that's I kind of need to take a water break every 20 minutes right now, so just I know, bear with me. I'm kind of used to having time to collect my thoughts and either get some water or check social media. But again, thanks for hanging with us tonight, folks, again on the program. But again, so once more, but again, as we know, again, Candace Parker again did not play that first half of the season. And so all 3 games I went to again were before she was able to come back. But more so, 2015 was like more so for me. Just wanting to say, hey Candace, thank you so much for doing this for me. This really meant a lot. It still means a lot. So I wasn't able to do that last year. Now we can kind of come ahead now to the present day of 2016. Because, folks, as you may know, I'm still doing a little bit of work. I know that my main jobs right now are both the San Diego Gulls of the American Hockey League and then, of course, my full-time commitment to Point Loma Nazarene University. But I was also doing some pro soccer and also was doing some college baseball, too, over the summer. And that pretty much loaded up my work schedule pretty much 7 days a week, along on top of the network as well as also adding a wrench. So I really had no time to really go see the Sparks play so far this year up until I got a free day on June 30th when LA was going to play Atlanta on a afternoon game at 12:30 that afternoon. And that, and of course, with me working a lot, plus me working a lot, and also I do have, of course, folks, that trip that, of course, is coming up to Hawaii coming up in 2 weeks as well. Really put a dent in, threw a wrench in my plans of going to more games this year. Of course, I'd gone to one game in Phoenix back in May, but more so trying to go to a game in LA, of course, was being kind of put being kind of put on layaway right now because of what's going on with my schedule with work. But I was able, though, to finally get to a game this year back on June 30th. And before that, though, actually, on June 26th, a group of fans, though, actually, before the game, I want to say, were able to actually track Candace down before the game, and they were able to get her to give me a shout-out on a video that was put out on my Instagram, basically saying, hey, man, hope to see you at a game this year. And she also just gave me a shout-out saying, hey, what's up, Callan? Hope to see you at a game this season. And that was pretty much it. And I thought, oh, nice. So that was one part of it, and then as we go now, folks. So probably the loudest game I've been to, with this being the other Camp Day game the Sparks hosted. So I was parked in 116, 2 sections away from the Sparks tunnel, and when I first got into Staples Center that afternoon, some of the Sparks were already warming up for the game, and I was about touching distance away from the tunnel, or at least in touching range, I should say, for the players to come and say hi. So sure enough, one of the 3 players that's out there, of course, Candace Parker is the first player out there as soon as the doors open for the fans to come in at 11:30 for the 12:30 tip-off. And so I had stood there for about roughly 15 minutes to just watch her, and like, is today finally the day where something good is going to happen with me? Either getting a picture with her or something for that matter. So after about waiting for 15 minutes, Candace had left the court and headed back towards the locker room with assistant coach Amber Stocks following her pregame warm-up ritual. While on her way back, though, I just kind of stood there like minding my own business up until she had saw me, and much like the experience I had seeing her in 2014 after the game against the Liberty, I was able to. She dropped by and gave me another. She actually shook my hand this time and said, "Hey, man, I saw a bunch of your friends on Sunday, and hopefully you got the video." Said, yeah, I got the video, and it's on Instagram, and, thanks for that. But, hey, I'll let you go. Good luck today, and I will see you after the game. And so she gave me that little, kind of like that famous Candace Parker, like little head nod after, like, yeah, I'll see you after the game, bro, absolutely. So we go on from the game, absolutely, or go on through that game, I should say, at this point. And so again, that was a very raucous crowd again, folks. It was Camp Day again for the Sparks. It was their second one of the season that, again, they hosted Camp Day this year. And so the campers all left at about the start of the fourth quarter that day. And so that gave me the idea to move closer because I was 2 sections over. So we actually moved over to 118 after the third quarter ended. We were parked right in the first row of 118, which is, again, kitty corner, which, again, behind the LA bench and right next to the player tunnel. So, of course, the Sparks win the game over Atlanta 84-75. So the players leave the tunnel, so I get high fives from Aguma K, from Jantel Lavender, from the entire team. Brian Nagler comes and gives me a high five, so on and so forth. So Candace Parker stayed back to give a post-game interview to Bobby Neely, the Sparks in-game host, before she left the court for the locker room. So as she was making her way back to the locker room, of course, Layla, her daughter, had run across the court to see her mom. And so I was waiting, or just was hanging out there, so I again gave her a hug and a high five and said, hey, do you want us to wait here? And she said, yeah, wait right here, I'll be out shortly. Because she was going to go and do an interview with television, with the website, and then she was going to go and see the training staff for some treatment. So 20 minutes went by, and if you folks know Staples Center very well, you kind of know that security. I'll keep it clean here, but say, security said, well, sorry guys, but you guys you'll have to wait upstairs to see whoever you're going to be seeing, because you need to have a pass to stay in the Arena Bowl this long. So we waited waited upstairs, and then we just said, you know what, screw it, we'll go outside and wait, because it was me, one of my good friends, and then his girlfriend was there, also first timers. So I said to myself, I don't want to leave her hanging. I don't want her to, leave and then me not be there or something like that, or am I going to have to, or do I leave now and just, hope and pray that I come to another game to see her again? So luckily, though, folks, for some damn reason, I kind of seem to know the area around my work, which is both Point Loma Nazarene University, the area around the sports arena here, where I also work for the Gulls games. But I seem to know the area around Staples Center and Honda Center, where the Anaheim Ducks, where I used to work for the LA Kiss. I seem to, for some reason, know that area or those areas very, very well, kind of like the back of my hand for some reason. And I won't, and at this point, so. But also, if you're lucky enough, though, folks, to kind of know certain places or surrounding areas around the arena or even LA Live, you are probably likely to see some players leaving Staples Center to go and get food, or they're going to be getting a ride at the airport, or they're going to be going back to the team hotel. So the closest parking lot used is Lot 1, which is located and adjacent to the LA Convention Center. There's an underground lot that goes inside of both the Convention Center and LA and in Staples Center, where a fan perimeter is also set up near this lot, facing the LA Convention Center towards 11th Street. Where fans for the Lakers, Clippers, Kings, and even some Sparks fans can go and, you can go there and wait out autographs if you're lucky enough to get players. So this was maybe about an hour and a half wait, probably, just to kind of see what would happen. Just to is this really worth it? So we hung out. We were, though, able to see Lasia Clarendon, Tiffany Hayes, and Rashonda Gray from Atlanta. They all were walking out of Staples towards LA Live, so I was able to hook up with Lasia Clarendon and get a photo with her and chat with her for a few minutes, and then so we had killed an hour and a half wait, folks. Of course, if you know LA in some capacity, you know that traffic is a nightmare in Southern California. So we were more so actually, though, killing time, not really to see players, but more so to kill more time before we decided to go home, because, of course, we'd be waiting in traffic for an hour, 2 hours on end. at this point. So again, during that time though, we were again hanging out once more. So we had seen a few LA players leaving Lot 1 again because there's a lot also used inside of Lot. There's a lot used specifically for the teams that are playing at Staples Center inside of Lot 1. So we had seen a few players roll out until this smoky gray, like this really, really like almost not pewter, but really dark gray and orange trim car was leaving the building. And myself, my friend Cameron, and his girlfriend Sarah were the three closest people to the front of this little perimeter. Again, we were the only three people waiting, along with a dad and his two daughters and his son were also waiting. And then we'd also seen Amber Stocks and some other people leaving. But again, this very, very dark gray and orange car again was leaving the lot. And so we were just minding our own business until the car rolls up to the turn lane to go towards the freeways, which is either the 110 or the 5, leaving Staples Center. And with the front passenger window down, a very, very familiar voice in my head said, "Yo, what's up, dude?" Hey, sure enough, it's Candace Parker leaving Staples Center. But more so after seeing this again, it was Candace Parker not only saying hi, but stepping out of her car to walk around the perimeter and actually greet the fans that were actually waiting to see her after the game after of course the game had concluded that day at this point. Yeah. So after I said, hey, you guys can go first. So I was talking to the dad who had his two daughters and son with him because I felt, hey, you guys should go first because I need some more time here. So I gracefully let the dad and his two daughters and his son take the photos, get their photos taken, and then have Candace sign a few things. So of course, after that happens, of course, hey, there's a big, of course, Candace and I are able to embrace after the game, and we're actually now, folks, I'll go ahead and show you some photos taken from it. And more so, folks, we'll start with this one that my buddy Cameron, God bless his soul for snagging this photo courtesy of Google Talk, screen share, folks, here via my Facebook page. This photo, folks, was taken right after Candace and I had initially embraced and hugged each other the first time. But more so, folks, I look at that photo, and I told this to my folks the day I got home that night and showed them the pictures. I said, that photo, and I want you folks to chime in here, even in the chat box on Twitter. This photo, though, in a very small way, kind of tells me, or sort of in my head paints a picture like this is a continuation, or the picture I painted for you folks during our interview in 2014 was that this was not the average, boring, stale, outdated, old school interview, more so again of how I said again about how we come here tonight on this program again, sharing one-on-one personal level stories. This photo in a very small way sort of to me painted that picture when I first saw it on my camera roll was like, this is like her and I continuing our conversation from 2 years ago. That was after we hugged and said, Candace, I know I say it a lot on social media, but hey, thank you so much again for taking that time out of your day to again, do this interview with me and for me, because it still does, it still has, and still will again forever hold a lot of weight toward, it holds a lot of weight for me personally, both as a fan of you, fan of this team, fan of this, and fan of this league and this team, but more so again a fan of not only you as a player, but also a fan though, of this league as well. At this point, again, so that's that picture, is one thing. At this point, again, just very special. And the other photo, folks, I will share for you now again is one that I actually just recently photoshopped a couple days ago. If any of you folks follow me on Snapchat, you saw that story put out at late night a couple days ago. But again, probably the only time I think that I've actually had a women's basketball player be the same height as me, because that's another thing, folks, I also wrote about as well, or talking about a lot, is that Candace Parker and I, folks, are both 6'4". I mean, we're both very tall drinks of water. And it felt good, I guess, to kind of see a player that I've admired, of course, eye to eye, kind of in a way. But again, though, I mean, very cool. See that again, and again, able to finally, folks. I mean, it had eluded me for so long, but again, to get that picture with Candace Parker. She also, by the way, folks, signed the first jersey I got of her, which was a jersey from her rookie season. In 2008, which is now behind me, actually, but you can't see it very well, but it's now on my surfboard here, but it is signed by Candace from that rookie season in 2008, that day as well. So our brief conversation rolled on, but again, it was more so, again, it was me being the sappy guy I am sometimes when it comes to this type of experience, but again, more so, again, Candace, hey, thank you so much for doing this interview with me and for me. Again, you allowed not only a fan of this league, a fan of yourself as a player, but again, you allowed a college student to interview you for 40 minutes. And I only wanted 5 or 10, but you gave me 40 instead. And you, once again, you really did a number on that one again. And hey, you're a very special person, a very special player again, and I do applaud and thank you again for doing that. And, of course, she had said, hey, man, no problem. But, again, thank you for being a fan and for giving, and kind of in a way, though, saying, hey, thanks for being a fan, though, of the league and also of, and being a fan of the WNBA as well. But the thing, though, folks, as well, that after we had finally finished it up again, after embracing one more time, but more so, though, Candace Parker saying, hey, man, we'll be in touch. You let me know when you're coming to a game. I'll come and see you again. But, hey, we will be in touch. As well. So, folks, hey, I've been a fan of this sport for half my life. I turned 22 back in May. I've been a fan since I was 12 years old, and this right here, folks, this show, this player, this interview I did, this is the reason why I have been and will forever always be a fan of this league and of this player because of how the WNBA is by far, single-handedly, the #1 best fan base and best, and best sports league in my mind, regardless of what people say, the naysayers, the doubters that have said that about this league for 20 seasons, folks. But again, you see the camaraderie, you see the chemistry, you see, the player and fan interactions, folks. And I said this too to Cameron and Sarah, his girlfriend. You guys are going to want to come back to another game because you will not find a better player-fan league or just all-around league in general. Again, yes, we have, we argue and bicker about our teams when we lose or play against certain teams. But at the end of the day, folks, whether you root for LA, you root for Phoenix, or whoever you may root for, folks, at the end of the day, in spite of wins and losses, final scores, we may argue, we may fight and bicker about our teams. But at the end of the day, though, folks, we are still and probably forever will be the #1 all-time greatest and best sports fan league. More so because, again, we're not here to kill people and throw people into cars and, risk somebody's life because I root for Los Angeles and somebody I know roots for Phoenix or roots for whoever it may be, folks. We don't go to those levels because we all are, like we say a lot, we're one big happy village, we're one big happy family, one big circle of friends, that I've met people. Like I said, I've met people. Jess, my great friend from Reno. I've talked to many of you great people as well, from Rashad and Ben and Corey. People I know, though, that I interact with on Twitter. This is the reason why, at the end of the day, that this league is that this league has made me a fan for so long, and because you make friends with people across the country, and in some cases, folks, you make friends with people around the world. I mean, I have a buddy of mine. His name is Andres, who is living over in Europe somewhere, who wakes up every early morning to watch the Mercury play on League Pass from out of country. I have friends, of course, Anila. Of course, you guys saw Anila Khan, our great friend too from Toronto, who also has been a very good friend of mine as well via social media. Friends in Australia that I've got, folks. I mean, we have so many, great people in this women's basketball fan base that when you see this type of player and team, player and fan interaction, how can you not admire and love these athletes for being humble human beings after a game is over? And again, leaving a game, they're rolling out, they want to go home and stuff, but they still take 10 more minutes out of their time to, leave their car, see some fans, and above all, too, that they will take the time to sign autographs and photos and stuff like that. I mean, that's, again, you're not going to find a better, player and fan type of sporting league than the WNBA, folks. A couple comments real quick from the chat box. Todd mentioned in regards to the topic I brought up here about Candace Parker and myself after the game. Todd says, it shows you someone that cares about you, Callan, not a object, but care about you personally. And Tuttle says, in regards to my latest comments, he says, Callan, thank you very much. Close-minded people need to watch these games. I watched 5 today, and they were all good. The fact is, the quality has never been better. Some good people and some very good entertainment as well. But again, ladies and gentlemen, for old time's sake, I know I have said it. If I said it once, folks, I said it 1,000 times here on this network. But again, folks, I really do humbly and truly appreciate you folks for staying up late tonight and joining us here tonight on this very special weekend edition of the network again here on WNBA One-on-One, a full house of aces again. A good chance here to again kind of get to know us a little bit better here. But again, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, once more, I think I'm going to wrap it up here, folks, momentarily. But again, folks, I will say that we had a phenomenal, incredible number of people watching tonight, folks. We topped out at 12 live views tonight, folks. Thank you so very much for, again, joining us tonight, folks. Again, double-digit viewers for the live program tonight again. And for you folks to stay up this late, whether you're out here on the West Coast or if you're up early in the morning on the East Coast, again, thank you so very much again for staying up late and enjoying this little one-on-one show again tonight featuring myself. But again, able to share some very, very, very good stories, very incredible, very extraordinary stories involving myself in a very, very long 12-year sort of off-and-on relationship with the WNBA and women's basketball. But again, though, more so again about how an interview, again, really, how one message on Twitter forever changed my career going forward, folks. That led to another interview, that led to some blog stories that, of course, and I will, though, folks, for the first time show you folks, but hey, because, hey, Candace Parker deserves a lot. Candace Parker, folks, deserves a hell of a lot of credit here for this. But one interview, one direct message, 40 minutes, folks, with Candace Parker led to this baby right here, my full-on college degree right here. The interview with Candace Parker, folks, is a testament to this right here. This is my reason why this is in my hand, framed and above my computer desk in my studio, because of one very phenomenal athlete, one extraordinary person, one athlete I have admired and loved and respected for 12 years of my life at least. More so with her in 2006 for keeping me involved in the program, or at least keeping me involved with the sport again. But hey, Candace Parker, that college degree is a large part of your interview. I mean, I know that perhaps you don't want to take a whole lot of credit for that. I know it was more of my work and dedication and hard work into this. But again, I think without Candace Parker's interview, folks, I'm not fully sure I would either finish my degree or would not have gotten it in as quick as I did. Again, folks, I finished my degree in only a year and a half after getting involved with the program, with my broadcasting program again. But once more, folks, again, I want to once more, again, say thank you once more to Candace Parker of the LA Sparks again. A player that, again, has kept me a fan of this league and kept me a fan of this, not only of the Sparks, but again, kept me more as a fan of this league and of this league, folks, and of the sport in general again. And I'll have a very good story to share, though, too, with my friends that play on our women's basketball team at PLNU this season, because they also are very, very good folks that are very, very down-to-earth individuals that, they make coming to work for me fun. I'm looking forward to getting back there in November as well. One quick comment, folks, from Todd Mintz. Again, folks, we will, again, be on air. Again, folks, we will be on air tomorrow, but I will not be hosting tomorrow. Will be Eric Nimchok hosting tomorrow night. Todd says he'll be helping out tomorrow night's program. He told me we will be on air. Thanks for a great show to wrap up the Sunday. Callan, please do more of these, and that goes for the whole panel and the people they meet as well. Todd, we are lining up more and more. We've already done Crystal and Eric. We're working on getting Shorty, Reagan as well, but we also have done myself, Crystal, and Eric. We are working, of course, on getting Marquez, Reagan, and Shorty on here sometime very, very soon. And I know that we'll have more good stories to share, though, folks, when we have those next up-and-coming installments of WNBA One-on-One. But again, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us here tonight. Again, we had almost 12 people view us tonight on the program. Again, ladies and gentlemen, once more, but again, namaste. But again, thank you, folks, very much again for staying up late night here on this very special edition of our program. Again, means a lot to not only myself, but to the entire network. Again, folks, we are just 5 shows away from the 300 mark. We'll have a very special show, folks, for that coming up probably next Monday is probably going to be when we will hit our 300 mark. But again, 5 more shows till 300, folks. But again, once more, namaste, folks. But again, thank you very, very much. Humbly, again, thanks for joining us here, folks, tonight on the program. We will wrap up here for the night. But again, program alert for you, folks. Again, on air tomorrow night with Eric Nimchok hosting, folks. I will be making an appearance, though, sometime during the course of the program from the Major League Baseball Home Run Derby here in San Diego. We will though be off on Tuesday, but we'll be back though, folks, on Wednesday night though, following tomorrow's show with Eric Nimchok as your guest host for tomorrow night. But again, ladies and gentlemen, again, I'll say it for like if I say it once, I'll say it 1,000 times, folks. But again, thank you from the bottom of my 6'4" frame and from the bottom of my heart. Again, folks, thank you very, very much again for staying up late and joining me tonight on a very special edition of our program tonight. Again, on this edition of WNBA One-on-One. Here, a house full of aces, and also again, thanks to once more, but again, Candace Parker. Hey, salute! Thank you very much as well again for, of course, what you've done again for me to again be able to finish up my college degree. And again, thank you again for taking a lot of time out of your day again to chat with me in 2014. Also, hey, thanks to you as well, though, for stopping and hanging out with me as well after the game had ended on Thursday afternoon. But again, folks, up until tomorrow night, folks, with Eric Nimchok as your guest host. Until tomorrow night, folks, have a safe night. Drive home safely. Thank you again for stopping by and joining us here, folks, on this very special edition of the WNBA 365 Network here, folks. For Cal McClurg in San Diego from CN 171, folks, again, good night. Thank you again for joining us here, folks. And again, we'll see you back here mañana on Monday night. Take care, folks, and again, good night and bye-bye.